This is the transfer show, live and direct from the iconic Battersea Power Station in London. Yes, lively in here. If you were with us at 5, you'd have seen Dharmesh and Kaveh Solokol already, but Alan Pardew, former West Ham and Newcastle manager, is with us as well. Right, loads coming up. What's going on at Manchester United? Key developments in their pursuit of Patrick Dorgu. Paul Pogba has caused a stir on social media. We've got the very latest on his search for a new club. John Duran could still leave before Monday's deadline. We have the latest on the Aston Villa striker. And the Brighton forward, Evan Ferguson, is attracting a lot of attention in this window from the Premier League and abroad. But the breaking news, just in the last few minutes, Arsenal have been really successful with the red card for the youngster at the weekend. What do you think, Alan?
Well, I think that's the correct decision. Arteta after the game made it quite clear that they were going to appeal, and the tackle was innocuous to me. It was just a trip, and I think the referee got it completely wrong. So I think that was justice.
Happy,
yep.
You too? Is that right?
I think it just proves that the systems we've already got in place work. If you feel that you've been hard done by, there is a process by which you can appeal, and it's heard very, very quickly, and the right decision has been reached.
Well,
and also,
Arsenal that during the game.
No, but Arsenal ended up winning the game.
Well, they did
as well.
Eventually. Yeah.
And Wolves had a player sent off as well, so everything has worked out. But we've still got to, I think, later in the show, talk about everything that's been happening around referees and the abuse and the situation we've got where the police are guarding the home of one of our most high-profile referees. And is that what we really want football to become in this day and age?
I just want to ask Alan, actually, just on what happened with Arsenal over the weekend. We saw Sir Alex Ferguson famously with Manchester United adopt that siege mentality when everyone's against you. Do you think, in a way, this might benefit Mikel Arteta and Arsenal when they go for the title? Is he sending the message to his players? What would you be doing if you were in that dressing room?
Well, as a manager, you're going to use every kind of tool you can. And certainly, I think they've had some tough decisions go against them this year. And I think that sort of siege mentality is obviously great for the dressing room, and he will be using that. To actually get him sent off in a kind of an injustice as well, and still win, was a massive thing for him. And now they've got it, they've got it resurrected. Kind of, he can play the next game, the lad. So I think he's won all round there. Yeah, I think he'll be happy.
So Miles Lewis-Skelly has had his red card rescinded. Great news for Arsenal. Let's talk Manchester United then. Dharmesh, where are we with Dorgu? How close?
This looks really close now because Manchester United, we're told, are close to finalising a deal with Lecce for their defender, Patrick Dorgu. Many of the aspects, I'm told, of that deal, worth in the region of £30 million, have been agreed in principle. I've actually been told that it could actually be a little bit less than £30 million all in. So it looks like something that Manchester United were pushing for. They didn't want to overpay for Dorgu, and it seems like that they're going to get the deal that they want. Positive talks have been happening last week. They happened this week. They're continuing today. I think the finalities of this deal are now just the structure of it, because I think the overall package hasn't changed that much to what Manchester United were offering before, but maybe the structure and the makeup of the deal has. As far as Dorgu's concerned, he wants to come to Manchester United, make no mistake about it, and we're told that personal terms not expected to be a problem. So this one looks really, really close now.
He's not been playing senior football for very long. Is this a gamble?
I think all signings are a gamble, and United haven't been particularly successful when it comes to buying players from Italy recently. But Dorgu's an emerging talent. I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't watched Lecce very closely, or if at all, recently. But you know, Manchester United scouts have been watching him. They think he's got a big future in the game. He was the Danish Young Player of the Year last year. So he's a big, big talent. And I think it's great news for Ruben Amorim because obviously he's told the people above him at United, this is an area we need to strengthen ASAP.
So if he comes in, they've got to pay for him. Does that mean Garnacho's got to go? And if he has, would you sell Garnacho?
Well, I think the situation with Garnacho is a simple one, and that's the problem I think all Premier League teams have, is that the young players are obviously, you know, when it comes to FFP and the financial fair play, etc., that he becomes an asset in terms of that money that they're going to need to invest in the team. So the 70 million or whatever figure they feel they're going to get for him, or whether that happens or not, I don't know, will be to strengthen particularly, I think, the back line, which is a problem for United. You know, you only got to look at their goals against column for a top team. It's just not good enough. So to buy 2 young players, I can see that. It's a sacrifice because obviously the boys are talent. And I think that is a deal that could happen.
Are you surprised that Amorim's been there for a while yet and he still hasn't made a signing?
Well, I think he's definitely a coach that has great potential. I love the way he uses the press. He's sort of wears his heart on his sleeve. He's giving you guys what you want. He's being honest. I think the team he's probably looking at, and he sees so much dysfunction. I see him at Fulham at the weekend and on Monday, and you know they're not solid. They're not the Man United you would expect to see. So I think he's been surprised by what he's found, but genuinely I think he's doing a decent job, and I think he will look to this window to kind of manoeuvre it a little bit, and it doesn't look like he's got much wiggle room, but Garnacho might be the answer to that.
What would you change at United?
Well, I think his system is something that's brought him great success at Sporting Lisbon, so I think he'll stick to that system. I think he needs to understand the players that he has, and only by playing them and seeing them on a regular basis will you get to know that. The fact that he's had to come in mid-season and not have a pre-season where he could sort of bond with the players is always difficult, and I've had to do that as a manager. That is your most difficult thing as a manager, to come in mid-season and try and create relationships with players when you're just going game to game, and you're not getting no downtime. So that's been difficult for him.
Will he have Casemiro by the end of this window?
I'm not sure he wants Casemiro by the end of this window. You know, there was a lot of hype and fanfare when United signed him from Real Madrid. Obviously a fantastic player with an incredible record when it comes to winning trophies, but you just get the feeling that most neutral observers would say that he was kind of been past his best by the time he moved to the Premier League. He's on big money. I think United would listen to offers for him. Our colleagues at Sky in Italy are saying that Roma have been asked to be kept in the loop about his future and his potential availability. I think Roma are looking for a midfielder in case Leandro Paredes moves to Boca Juniors. So that's a possibility that he could leave. But again, I'm not sure Roma would want to pay that much for him, or there's no way Roma could match the wages he's on at United.
Time to move him on, Alan?
I think so. I think, you know, he's come in and he's not really, you know, sort of stamped.
He started well, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and he had a couple of days ago, but he's at that age where you always kind of have that label against him. As his legs gone, is he getting around the pitch? Is the mobility still there? And I think that has left him. And, you know, in that midfield, it's slightly vulnerable because there's a lack of experience in there. So, you know, they were looking to him to do so many things, and he just hasn't been able to do that. And I think possibly if he moves on, I think that will probably be a good thing for the manager, because, you know, you don't want senior players, big senior players, big personalities, not playing, but in the dressing room, you know, maybe not that motivated, etc. So it's a tough one for him to have Casemiro, you know, this guy who's been a legend in the game, in the dressing room, not playing.
I think he's been slightly unfortunate as well, though. First season, United did really well. They finished third under Erik ten Hag. They won the League Cup, and he was central to what Manchester United did that season. The second season ten Hag was there, and I know it's not an excuse, but there were so many injuries that Manchester United had, particularly in defence. He ended up playing centre-half some games. And now Ruben Amorim has come in with a new formation where it requires the two midfielders in front of that back three to be up and down and have legs. And he maybe needs one or two midfielders who have got those legs to be able to function in a formation like that.
It would certainly be better at Roma, you know, in an Italian system where you just have that number 6, which he likes to play. He can sit in front of the back four and use his experience. So I can understand that interest. But I think, you know, there is some truth in what you're saying there. The role in that midfield of Amorim's is slightly different.
Doesn't appear to be a role for Marcus Rashford at United. What's the latest with him?
Well, look, we've got 6 days to go. Time's running out for Marcus Rashford to try and get a move, because he did that interview. We had Henry Winter in here yesterday. He actually did that interview with Henry Winter on December the 17th, 2 weeks before the transfer window opened. So you would think that if you're doing an interview like that, I need a new challenge, there's bound to be a club ready to go to take Marcus Rashford. Day 28 of the transfer window, still training with the first team squad and nowhere near Ruben Amorim's squad. Ruben Amorim, I mean, I saw Alan on Sunday at that game, and the press conference was explosive, because the way he spoke about Marcus Rashford, and we've spoken about what he said, but he was also asked the question, if he is at Manchester United come 11 p.m. on February the 3rd, what's going to happen? And he actually said, look, he will be used provided he shows the maximum in training and does the right things, which is effectively implying that Marcus Rashford hasn't been showing the maximum in training, hasn't been showing the right things. AC Milan have come and gone. They had an interest. They've now signed Kyle Walker. Marcus Rashford isn't going there. Borussia Dortmund had an interest. The finances simply will not work for them. He wants to go to Barcelona. And if you want to talk about financial issues, I mean, put them top of the list, because they need to create loads of salary space to even contemplate going for a deal for Rashford. There was talk as well of Fenerbahce potentially trying to get Marcus Rashford, and their vice president is Akun Ilikali, who's actually the Hull owner as well. He was on Sky Sports News this morning. He was asked a question about Rashford. He said, of course, there were some rumours, but I can say very comfortably that we are not interested, but he is a good player. So as it stands, he's still at Manchester United, and if he remains there, Manchester United are going to have to do some sort of reintegration into that first team, so he's knocking on the door of the first team again.
Reintegration. Darmash always uses that word. I don't see it. Do you see it?
Well, look, you know, first and foremost, the boy is a talent. You know, it was only yesterday that, you know, for England, he was a star player for us. So he has the talent. There's obviously a motivational factor going on here. Now, for whatever reason, whether there is something gone off in the dressing room with him or he's not happy, he's obviously using that kind of feeling that Amorim's picking up on, and he's not happy with it. So he is in a difficult position, and I think for him to move on is the right thing, probably for Man United and for Rashford as well. But it's a difficult one. I've been in that situation before. And this particular window, you know, he was talking on Monday about him not training well. But this is because the window's open. You know, he's probably making a statement that I want to move, and he's not working properly. That doesn't mean to say when the window shuts and he hasn't moved, that first of Feb he's running around, you know, like he really means it. So, you know, let's wait and see on that. I still think that there will be a deal done.
You do?
Yeah, I do think there will be a deal done.
I think, though, if you go back to the start of the transfer window, Manchester United could demand anything they wanted for Rashford. If he was going permanently, they could name a price. But with regard to if he went on loan, they would insist, we're not paying any of his wages. Whoever wants to take him pays all of his wages. But since then, has their position weakened a little bit? Because of these comments that Ruben Amorim keeps making, it's clear that he wants him out. Can a club later on in this window see an opportunity and think, you know what, we'll take him, but Manchester United, you're going to have to pay a substantial portion of these wages, which is not going to be ideal for United, because they don't want to pay a player to be playing somewhere else.
Most of these kind of deals, we all know, at the end of the window, things start to get done, because actually, at some point, the cards are falling for somebody. And in Rashford's situation, I'm sure his agent and the people around him are kind of waiting to see where the cards are going to fall. And you're quite right. You know, the value the value for Man United is probably going down as the window is closing. And the manager's comments, what a manager's, you know, he's just talking from the training ground and exactly what he's finding. And I think he's looking after the football club. He's saying what he feels, and they'll all have to take the consequences of what that is.
Do you see him staying in the Premier League, Carve, at another club?
I think it'd be intriguing if a Premier League club did try and sign him later on in the window, maybe to follow up what Alan is saying. You know, deadline day or the day before could be a good time for one of the big clubs in the Premier League who are looking for a forward to get in touch with United and say, we're here if you want to do a deal, but only on these terms. And then United would have a big decision to make. I think, you know, knowing what managers are like, there'll be managers out there who think Marcus Rashford is a challenge. I can sort him out. You know,
definitely.
I can get him in. I can get him in the office.
There's definitely that.
We can have a heart to heart. Whatever problems he's got, I can sort it out.
Yeah, because and also all managers have egos, and you know I'll get the best out of him. Of course they do. You know, like you guys have egos. You know, football managers, you get an ego, and you assume that you can bring him into your environment and get him going again, because obviously this kid needs a boost as well, and I think he'll be good for somebody, but I doubt whether he'll end up in the Premier League. I cannot see Jim Ratcliffe and the team at Man United agreeing for him to go to Arsenal, Chelsea or wherever. I can't see that.
Give us an example from your managerial career then, when you took on a player, when everyone was like, I'm not sure you should do this, Alan, but no, I'm going to be able to sort it out.
Well, you know, I think there's, you know, situations where you take players on and you assume that you're going to get the best out of them, but don't always work out like that. But I've signed, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head really, of a player that I've signed assuming that I was going to resurrect his career. Most of the signings I did were young players that were trying to find their way, so it was a bit different. I think Kabay, when I took him, I assumed that when he came into us from Lille to Newcastle, that we would get a big uplift out of him. And obviously we did. You know, I think we sold him to PSG for about 80 million more. So that's probably the one example that I can think of.
Well, you've signed some players, Tevez, Mascherano. We're going to talk about that a bit later.
That was a complicated.
Yeah, exactly. We've got time. Paul Pogba teased us today. Is he going back to United?
That's exactly what he did. Teased a few people. His representatives have been approached by a number of clubs in Europe, the Premier League, the MLS, Saudi Arabia. However, his focus is simply on getting fit, and a decision on his next club will probably be made closer to when he can return to playing, which is around March time. His 4-year ban, remember, for a positive drugs test was reduced to 18 months. So he can start training now, but join a club and play again in March. I think we can see the social media post now from Paul Pogba. He posted a cartoon. Look at this. I'm not sure exactly what this means. Of him alongside Manchester United forward Amad Diallo yesterday with the laughing emoji. I know that Carve loves to use on occasions. He's also shared a picture, another one, with a caption. I think we can see the next one as well. Reflectively looking out. And the caption says, let's see what's coming. Well, I think we'll probably find out, as I said, nearer to March when he'll probably make a decision on his next club.
Alan, would you take a risk on Pogba?
Well, Paul Pogba is a great player. There's no doubt about that. He's a World Cup winner, so he's in the conversation at most clubs, I should think. He comes with some baggage, socially and in the dressing room, and I can't see him back at Man United.
Right, we've got a viewer question. Sean, introduce yourself and tell us who you support.
Hi, my name's Sean. I'm a Manchester United fan, and I just wanted to know if Nkunku would be coming to Manchester United on loan in this window.
Carve, Nkunku to United on loan. What do you think?
I think it's a possibility. I don't think it's likely. The latest information we have coming out of Chelsea is that they are happy with their squad. They're not actively looking to move any players out. But obviously, their phones ring. Other clubs are interested in taking their players. Bayern Munich really want Christopher Nkunku. I think he would like to move to Bayern Munich. That is being held up at the moment because Matisse Tell isn't willing to move from Bayern to Chelsea the other way. But it is a possibility, but I wouldn't put money on it at this stage.
Thank you, Sean. Right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk the champions, Manchester City. What are they going to do about the Rodri conundrum? They haven't got the Ballon d'Or winner. Are they going to get someone in to hold the fort until he's back? We'll discuss that next. See you in a bit. The champions, Manchester City. They lost Rodri. What are they going to do about it? Here's Pep.
The reposition is important. They perform well, and of course, we have replaced this time already with the two players. They are not proper holding midfielders for many reasons. But we'll see in the future what they have to do.
Financially, this club's always had the money in recent years from getting to Champions League quarter-finals, semi-finals, final. If you do go out, could that affect transfer budgets, things like that?
I don't know. I didn't speak with my CEO about that. In the last years, I'd say 5-6 years, in Spain, net have been amazing, this club. So in the club said, okay, the situation is the situation, we're going to deal with that. So we can spend, we spend, we cannot spend, we're going to spend.
There's Pep. Carve, do they need to strengthen in midfield in this window?
I think a lot of City fans have been saying we needed backup for Rodri. We should have signed another defensive midfielder last summer, or we should be signing one at the moment. I don't necessarily think that's the way Pep Guardiola is thinking. I think he's happy with the business he's done. He's already signed 3 players this window. I think there's a possibility that they might sign another midfielder, somebody potentially like Douglas Luiz, who is available. He would like to return to the Premier League from Juventus, but I think Juventus are asking for quite a lot. So financially, I'm not sure that is a deal City would proceed with, but it's a possibility.
OK, right, we've got another audience question about Manchester City. Ali, tell us who you are and who you support, first of all.
Good evening, I support Real Madrid. My question is about the financial fair play. As we know, Man City have been spending very heavy this January window. Will that be an outcome in the spring case against them, or against 115 charge? Will that play a role?
That is a tough question, so Darmesh can answer it.
I'm going to hand this one over to Carve. Carve has been dealing with this one. I don't want to take his thunder on this one. So
Yeah, no, I mean, this is obviously a story that I've covered for a long time.
And let's just say, before we start, City deny all the charges.
Absolutely. These are separate issues. What's been going on with Manchester City is that there was a hearing that started in September in front of an independent commission. That independent commission was made up of a 3-person panel. The hearing ended just before Christmas, and at the moment that 3-person panel are considering their judgment and writing their judgment. So nobody knows what that judgment is going to be. What we do know is that the Premier League think that Manchester City had a case to answer, and Manchester City answered that case, and Manchester City have always insisted that they have done absolutely nothing wrong. So I think what we have to do is the responsible thing, which is to wait for the judgment. We don't know when it's going to come. It will probably be sometime in the spring. Even when we get the judgment, it's not going to be the end of the road, because both sides could appeal if they're unhappy with the judgment. So that whole case has absolutely nothing to do with Manchester City's transfer business. Manchester City are the 2nd richest club in the world at the moment. Last summer, they spent less money than League One Birmingham City. Over the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 windows, they have spent less, net spend less than their rivals. So the money they are spending on transfers in this window is money that they have generated, and they have every right to spend it. And I don't know the state of their finances. All I do know is that their finances are in very good shape, and if they want to buy more players, they can buy more players. But be absolutely clear, it's got nothing to do with the Premier League case.
Thank you,
I was just going to say
go.
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and on that note, we're going to go to a break. Thanks, Ali. When we come back, the boys are going to take us through every single Premier League club. They've got a line on each and every one. See you in a couple of minutes.
Welcome back to the Transfer Show. Time now to go round the clubs.
Yep, certainly is. Arsenal remain in talks with Rosenborg over a deal for the Norwegian teenager Sverre Nupen. Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers has just confirmed the club have agreed a pre-contract agreement with Arsenal left-back Kieran Tierney.
Aston Villa are looking at signing both João Felix and Axel Disasi from Chelsea. However, Chelsea say they're not looking to sell anyone this month.
Now, despite their recent goal-scoring form, Bournemouth are still in need of attacking reinforcements, and they're one of a number of clubs interested in Brighton's Evan Ferguson.
Brentford are insisting they want to hold on to all of their attacking players, despite continued interest in Johan Wissa, Kevin Schade and Brian Mbeumo.
Bayer Leverkusen are pushing to sign, guess who? The Brighton striker, Evan Ferguson. Brighton are open to loan and permanent offers.
A verbal agreement is in place for Chelsea midfielder Cesare Casadei to join Torino on a permanent deal. Chelsea are interested in signing John Duran from Aston Villa, or they were last summer.
Crystal Palace still in the market to do business in the final 6 days of the window, with the defender a priority. A few injury problems there.
David Moyes will be relieved to know that Armando Broja will not be going anywhere. Chelsea are now expected to honour the duration of his loan deal until the end of the season.
Fulham manager Marco Silva expects a quiet end to this transfer window.
Ipswich Town could be busy this January. They're in the market for a forward, a midfielder and potentially a winger, dependent on the injury status of Wes Burns.
Leicester City boss Ruud van Nistelrooy wants to strengthen as they look to avoid the drop.
For Liverpool, their focus this January remains on retaining their players. That includes Ben Doak, who's expected to stay on loan with Middlesbrough for the season, with interest from Ipswich and Crystal Palace cooling off.
Manchester City continue to explore midfield options as we enter the final week of the window, and they're confident James McAtee will remain at the club.
Patrick Dorgu is getting closer to being a Manchester United player as they finalise payment details with Lecce. And Roma are interested in signing Casemiro, United willing to let him leave.
Yep, Miguel Almiron closes in on a return to MLS side Atlanta United. An agreement for £8 million plus £3 million in performance-related add-ons has been struck.
Nottingham Forest want to double down on their excellent start to the season by securing one of the window's top talents, with Mateus Cunha on their list.
There's on many other lists as well. Southampton will need all the help they can get over the rest of the season and will be hoping to keep hold of top talent Tyler Dibbling. They want up to £55 million for the teenager.
Ange Postecoglou will want reinforcements, but only if it is the right player. They're hoping to bring in at least one more before Monday's deadline.
West Ham United have been chasing a forward all window and have made inquiries over Brighton's Evan Ferguson and RB Leipzig's Andre Silva.
Carlos Forbes could be on his way back to Ajax from Wolves, where he has been on loan. The winger has made just one start in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, breaking news. You may have heard it just then in the wrap. Brendan Rodgers just confirmed that Kieran Tierney has signed a pre-contract agreement to return to Celtic from Arsenal in the summer. We'll discuss that a little bit later on. We've got Alan Pardew, of course, still here. Alan, you were involved in, without doubt, the most famous double signing in history, Tevez and Mascherano to West Ham. How did it come about?
Well, that transfer was a strange one because we was in the process of being bought, and the club was sort of for sale. And they come as sort of in a package of maybe the ownership. And it was put to me, would I be interested in these two certain World Cup winners?
Look how young you look there.
They weren't winners actually at the time. They were finalists. And they were brilliant. I mean, you know, obviously we hadn't scouted them. They wasn't in our process. We were looking at other players. In fact, I wanted to sign Milner at the time. and who I thought would have fitted perfectly for our team at that time. But you know, they come in and they didn't speak a word of English hardly. We met the day before they signed, and then I was wheeled out in front of the press conference with all you boys there to try and justify how we'd scouted them for years and years and stumbled upon them. But you know, it was a great moment, but they'd both been kind of in a process of not playing because they've been in dispute with their clubs in South America and their ownership, etc., etc. Kier Jacobin was a part of that, and they was nowhere near fit enough really. So it took us a while to get them up to speed. But they were two great players.
They could play.
Yeah.
I want to take you back to 31st of Jan 2011. You're managing Newcastle. Liverpool come in for Andy Carroll. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, Andy. So we were fighting to stay in the Premier League. I hadn't been there long, and he was a big part of our, you know, what we had. And it got Derek Lambias, who was the chairman at the time, sort of said, I think Liverpool were interested, you know, and I said, he's going nowhere, you know. We're going to be in big trouble if he goes. So we played that weekend. I think we won. And then I went home to see my family, and then I was travelling back. So I think the deadline day was the Monday, and I was getting a flight early Monday to train later because it was the last day of the window, hoping that my phone wouldn't work at the airport. Unfortunately, it did. And Derek Lambias said, you know, we're at 25 million. And I was like, well, it's not enough. You know, I just don't think it's enough for him. And I was kind of trying to protect myself and the team and the club and our fans. And I got on the plane, and when I got the other end, he called me and said, it's now 30 million. And I again, I was, it's not enough, it's not enough. And I'm thinking they're never going to go. And he said, well, if they go to 35, we're going to have to do it, I think. And I was like, no, well, they won't go to 35, I was thinking. And of course they did. So off he went. And it was Shola Omiomi, Leon Best, and Peter Lovenkratz actually that kept us in the division. And we really needed to pull on them. I had no time to get a replacement. I think we took someone on loan that we didn't really know, you know, out of desperation. So it was a real pivotal moment, but we managed to get through it. But for Andy, of course, it was a strange move because he was a Geordie and he loved playing for Newcastle. But of course he couldn't turn that down.
Brilliant stories. Right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, the rest of the day's transfer news and questions from the live audience. Hello again. We are back to the last part of the transfer show. So much to get through. We've had a development in Matthias Tell. Carve.
Yeah, this is news coming out of Sky Germany. The situation with Matthias Tell is that Chelsea are interested in signing the player and lots of other clubs as well, on a permanent or potentially on loan. But up to now, he's always said, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay at Bayern Munich. Sky Germany, just in the last few minutes, telling us that situation has changed and he's now prepared to leave Bayern Munich. And I think if he decides that Chelsea is where he wants to go to and Chelsea is still interested in signing him, that could unlock Christopher Nkunku moving from Chelsea to Bayern Munich.
Okay.
And prevent Nkunku going to United as well.
Exactly. Evan Ferguson, loads of people interested in him. Tell us.
Well, we told you yesterday Brighton open to loan offers. We've heard today that they're open to permanent offers as well. It's more likely to be a loan for Evan Ferguson if he is to leave in this transfer window. Bayer Leverkusen really pushing to sign Evan Ferguson. Loads of Premier League clubs interested as well. We spoke about Tottenham, we spoke about Bournemouth. West Ham, though, they've made inquiries to Brighton. Easy to see why. Graham Potter, manager of West Ham, used to manage Ferguson at Brighton, gave him his debut as well. Marseille are keeping an eye on his situation too. Who are they managed by? Roberto De Zerbi, who used to manage Evan Ferguson at Brighton.
Excellent. Right. Now we're going to get some proper questions. We're going to go to the audience. Martin, you're up first. Tell us who you are and who you support.
I'm Martin, I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm just wondering if we're going to... sorry, I've got the booze there. Just wondering if we're going to sign a centre forward. We're dying, all the Arsenal fans are dying to see that happen. Do you think it'll happen this transfer window?
They're trying. Myself and Mike have had like rucks about this in the last week. They are trying to do it. It's not like Arsenal's hierarchy and Mikel Arteta are just chilling out behind the scenes at the Emirates and thinking, you know what, let's just let this transfer window go past. He's actually said it in news conferences. He said, we need a striker, we want to bring one in, but significantly, he's always said it has to be the right player. If it isn't, then given what we've been talking about today with regard to PSR, if they spend money on the wrong player, then they won't be able to spend the money on what they perceive to be the right player in the summer. So they've got to be careful.
OK, there you go, Mark. Martin. Mark, you're next.
Hi, I'm Mark, Spot Exeter City. Question for Alan. As a manager, did you more look forward to the opportunity to bring players in the transfer window or dread the prospect of losing your best players?
Well, it depended on what club, but yeah, I certainly, you know, as a manager, it's a really stressful situation. Not only have you got your own, you know, throwing names at your left, right and centre that might be good for the club and, you know, your players that you really want. You've got players in the team that obviously want to move and they're playing up. So there's so much going on. It's very difficult to kind of keep it all together. But certainly losing players in the last couple of days is really stressful, you know, and you don't quite know how you're going to sort of resurface the team and keep the kind of positivity that you may have created. So that's always an issue. When I was at Reading, I remember Tommy Burns, before I took over, I think did 8 or 9 transfers on the last day of the window, which was incredible. I don't know if that's some kind of record. So, you know, there are times when the window comes to your aid, and certainly at Newcastle, with under Mike Ashley, we was having a few problems, and Mike went in and we got Sissoko and a few others, and it really helped us. And so it can be a great window.
Right, I'm going to whiz through the next. Craig.
Hi, I'm Craig from Ipswich, support Ipswich. Is there or was there any truth in the Igor Jesus to Ipswich rumour?
I mean, as far as we're aware, I think it wasn't just Ipswich, there's loads of clubs who were interested in Jesus. I said from the start of the window that Ipswich were likely to be the busiest in this transfer window. I said they could sign 5 players, they could release 4 or 5 as well. Now, City have signed 3, Ipswich have also signed 3, but I'm also told that they are still in the market for a striker, or Ipswich, in the remaining 6 days, and potentially a central midfielder as well. Igor Jesus has been bandied around with a lot of clubs, and it won't just be Ipswich who'd be interested in him.
OK, what was your name again? Craig. So you're Craig, so Matthew's next. And we're not running out of time, so real quick.
No worries. AFC Wimbledon fan. Question for Alan. Alan, I understand you're from the Wimbledon area. Have you ever kind of thought about maybe managing the club at any point in your career?
There it is.
Well,
breaking news.
As a young man, I did actually work at the tennis, believe it or not, Wimbledon tennis, but not at a football club. There's always been a great... I actually lived in Plough Lane, can you believe that, for a period? So I know Wimbledon very, very well. They're a great club. I'd be honoured to manage them, but not at this time. They're doing all right.
I'm afraid we have run out of time. I'm so sorry. But it's Dharmesh's fault because he spoke too long. Right, listen, thank you very much. Alan Pardew, Dharmesh Chef, Dharmesh Solakar. That was the transfer show for today. We are back tomorrow at 5 and at 6. Coming up next, Soccer Special. And there's Merce. Merce, get yourself down here. You'll love it. You can do some shopping. Merce is here on Friday. Thank you.